I'm Kara Lawson. And last Christmas, I learned that betrayal sounds a lot like laughter. My own sister, Talia, looked straight at me across the dinner table and said I'd never succeed in anything. The room erupted. Everyone laughed. Everyone except my grandmother. But here's what none of them knew. Grandma had been keeping a secret. A secret that would flip the entire Lawson family upside down before dessert even hit the table. Because when she stood up, when she slid that faded Christmas gift bag toward me, and when the truth spilled out onto the tablecloth, Talia's entire perfect life shattered. If you think you know what's coming, trust me, you don't. This story gets darker. Much darker. And listen, if you don't subscribe, you're going to miss the twist that most people never see coming. If you refuse, then comment why, so at least the algorithm knows you're awake. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. It was Christmas Eve, Madison, Wisconsin. Uncle Ben's house. The one with the ridiculous inflatable Santa on the lawn and the string lights that blinked in a rhythm that gave me a headache every single year. Inside, it smelled like cinnamon and pine and something burning in the oven that Aunt Linda would pretend was intentional char. Snow was falling outside, thick and silent, the kind that made everything look like a postcard. But postcards don't show you what happens behind closed doors. They don't show you the rage simmering under the smiles. I sat at the end of the table. Always the end. Like I was an afterthought. Like I was invited out of obligation, not love. My plate had the mismatched fork. The wobbly chair. And next to me? An empty seat that might as well have had a sign that said, Kara's a loser and nobody wants to sit near her. That's when Talia walked in. God, she loved an entrance. Designer coat. Some brand I'd never heard of, but that everyone pretended to recognize. Hair perfect. Makeup perfect. Smile so bright it could have powered the entire block. And the stories. Oh, the stories. She had a new boyfriend, some tech guy from Seattle. A promotion at her job. A weekend trip to Napa. Every sentence out of her mouth was a highlight reel, and everyone leaned in like she was the main event. And maybe she was. Because I was the commercial break nobody wanted. I tried to stay quiet. Tried to just eat my dried turkey and pretend I didn't exist. But Talia, she couldn't let me have even that. She turned to me, right in the middle of her story about some rooftop brunch. And she said it. Loud enough for everyone to hear. Some people just never figure life out. Right, Kara? The table went silent for half a second. Then someone snorted. Then someone else chuckled. Then the whole room erupted into laughter. Like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. Like my failure was entertainment. Uncle Ben practically slapped the table. Cousin Jamie covered her mouth, but her eyes were tearing up from laughing so hard. Even my mom, my own mother, looked down at her plate and smiled. Not one person defended me. Not one. I felt my chest tighten. Felt my face burn. Felt every muscle in my body scream at me to run. So I did. I excused myself, quietly, politely, like the good little failure they expected me to be, and I walked upstairs to the bathroom. Locked the door. Gripped the sink so hard my knuckles went white. I looked at myself in the mirror. Red eyes. Shaking hands. I didn't even recognize the woman staring back at me. When did I become this? When did I let them make me feel like I was worth nothing? And that's when I remembered something Grandma used to say. Back when she was still sharp. Still herself. She'd sit on her porch in the summer, shelling peas or peeling apples, and she'd look at me with those knowing eyes and say, Kara, baby, one day the truth always comes home for dinner. I didn't understand it back then. But standing in that bathroom, with my sister's laughter still ringing in my ears, I finally got it. The truth was coming. And when it did, Talia wouldn't be laughing anymore. I made a vow right there. Silent. Fierce. This was the last time I would sit at that table powerless. The last time I would let them make me feel small. I was done being the punchline. Done being the cautionary tale. I wiped my face. Took a breath. And I walked back downstairs. But I wasn't the same woman who left. The next morning I woke up in Grandma's guest room. The one with the floral wallpaper that smelled like mothballs and lavender. I stared at the ceiling for a long time. Listened to the house creak. Listened to the world move on without me. And then I got up. I didn't have a plan. Not really. But I had anger. And anger, when you channel it right, is the most powerful fuel in the world. I started working. 2 jobs. Mornings at the grocery store on the east side, scanning produce, dealing with coupons, pretending to smile when customers complained about expired milk. Nights at a 24-hour copy center downtown, running machines until my hands were stained with ink and my back ached from standing. I slept 4, maybe 5 hours a night, ate ramen, drank gas station coffee that tasted like burnt rubber. But I didn't complain. Complaining was for people who had the luxury of being heard. In between shifts, I studied digital branding, social media strategy, e-commerce marketing. I watched every YouTube tutorial I could find, read every article, took notes on the backs of receipts because I couldn't afford a notebook. And the rejections? God, the rejections piled up like snow in January. Job applications ignored. Interviews where they smiled and said, "We'll be in touch," and never called. Freelance pitches that got ghosted. Every door I knocked on slammed in my face. But then one opened. A candle business in Ohio. Small operation. Run by a woman named Marcy who made soy candles in her garage and sold them at farmers markets. She needed help with her Instagram. $120. That's what she offered. I took it, and I poured everything I had into that account. Custom graphics. Strategic posting times. #research. Within 2 weeks, her sales doubled. Within a month, she had to hire help just to keep up with orders. She told her friends. They told theirs. And slowly, so slowly it felt like torture, clients started coming in. A bakery in Oshkosh. A handmade jewelry store in Green Bay. A dog grooming business in Eau Claire. None of them paid much. But it was something. It was proof that I could do this. I built a portfolio. Then a website. Nothing fancy, just clean, professional mine. I started charging more. Set boundaries. Stopped taking projects that didn't respect my time. And then I moved out. Packed everything I owned into the back of my beat-up Honda and drove to a studio apartment in La Crosse. It was tiny. The heater barely worked. The landlord was a creep who always found excuses to knock on my door. But it was mine. My name on the lease. My space. My life. I stopped going to family events. Stopped answering the group texts. Left my phone on Do Not Disturb and only checked it twice a day. When my mom called asking why I missed Thanksgiving, I told her I was busy. When Talia sent a passive-aggressive message about how I was too good for the family now, I didn't respond. Let them think what they wanted. I was too busy building something they couldn't tear down. My confidence grew in the silence. Without their voices in my head telling me I wasn't enough, I started to believe I was. Without their laughter echoing in my chest, I started to breathe again. And that's when everything changed. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday. I was sitting in a coffee shop in downtown La Crosse, working on a pitch for a potential client, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something told me to pick up. It was a man named Richard, CEO of a regional outdoor gear company based out of Minneapolis. He'd seen my work for a hiking blog I'd helped rebrand. He wanted to meet. 3 days later, I was sitting in his office. Glass walls. City views. The kind of space I used to think was reserved for people who were born lucky. He offered me a 6-month contract. More money than I'd made in the last year combined. I wanted to cry. Instead, I shook his hand and said, "Let's get started." That contract turned into another. And another. Within 8 months, I had enough clients and enough confidence to do the unthinkable. I opened my own agency. Lawson Creative Works. I rented a small office in Chicago's River North District. Nothing huge. Just enough space for a desk, a couch, and a window that looked out onto the street. But it was mine. My name on the door. My dream made real. I hired 2 assistants, both young, hungry, willing to work hard because they saw in me what I'd been searching for my whole life. Proof that you could start with nothing and build something real. The money started rolling in. Consistent. High 4 figures every month. Then 5. I opened a business account. Started saving. Bought real furniture. Ate meals that didn't come from a microwave. But the strangest thing? I wasn't happy. Not the way I thought I'd be. Because success without vindication feels hollow. Like winning a race when no one's watching. And then I started hearing rumors. Whispers, really. Through the grapevine. Cousin Jamie mentioned it in passing during a rare phone call. My mom hinted at it when I finally answered one of her voicemails. Even Uncle Ben, who never cared about anyone's business but his own, brought it up. Talia's life wasn't what it seemed. The Seattle job? Questionable. The boyfriend? Gone. The perfect Instagram posts? Smoke and mirrors. I didn't dig. Didn't ask questions. Because the truth always circles back. Grandma taught me that. And I knew, deep in my bones, that whatever Talia was hiding would eventually come out. I just had to wait. The call came in March. Middle of the night. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, and I almost ignored it. But then I saw the name. Talia. I sat up, stared at the screen. Let it ring. And ring. And ring. She left a voicemail. I played it the next morning. Her voice was shaking. Broken. Kara. I don't know who else to call. I need help. Please. Just please call me back. I deleted it. 2 days later, she texted. Long, rambling paragraphs about how everything had fallen apart. How she'd made mistakes. How she was sorry. How she needed her sister. I didn't respond. A week after that, my mom called. Frantic. Angry. Talia's in trouble, Kara. Real trouble. And you're just ignoring her? What kind of sister are you? I hung up. Because I knew the truth was bigger than whatever sob story Talia was selling. And I was right. Grandma called me a few days later. Her voice was tired but clear. She told me everything. How Talia had been forging job documents to make it look like she worked at a tech company in Seattle. How she'd been living off credit cards and lies. How the boyfriend had dumped her when he found out. How she'd been evicted from her apartment. And the worst part, the part that made my blood run cold? She'd been stealing from Grandma. Forging checks. Small amounts at first. Then bigger. Enough that the bank flagged it and launched an investigation. My sister, the golden child, the favorite, the one everyone loved, was a fraud. And a thief. Grandma's voice cracked when she said, I wanted you to know before everyone else found out. Because you deserved to know. After everything she did to you, you deserved to know. I thanked her. Hung up. And sat in my office staring at the Chicago skyline for hours. The anger I'd been carrying for so long? It didn't feel satisfying anymore. It felt heavy. Exhausting. Like I'd been carrying a boulder up a mountain, and now that I'd reached the top, I didn't know what to do with it. But I knew what I had to do. I texted Talia back. Short. Professional. Meet me at this address. Thursday. 2 p.m. She responded immediately. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll be there. She had no idea where she was going. She probably thought it was a coffee shop. A restaurant. Somewhere neutral where we could talk. She had no idea. Thursday came. I got to the office early. Made sure everything was perfect. The glass walls spotless. The desk organized. The view framed just right. I wanted her to see it. All of it. I wanted her to understand exactly what she'd tried to destroy. At 2:03 p.m., the door opened. And there she was. Talia. My sister. The woman who'd spent years making me feel worthless. She looked small. Tired. Her hair wasn't perfect anymore. Her clothes were wrinkled. Her eyes were red and swollen like she'd been crying for days. She stepped inside. Looked around. And then she saw me. Sitting behind the desk. Confident. Composed. In control. Her mouth opened. Then closed. Then opened again. This is yours. I didn't answer. Just stared at her. Let the silence do the work. Because silence, I'd learned, hits harder than yelling ever could. She looked around again. At the assistants working at their desks. At the client proposals stacked neatly on the shelf. At the framed success stories on the wall. At the life I'd built without her. Despite her. Her voice cracked. Kara. I didn't know. I didn't. You didn't know what? I said. Calm. Cold. That I could succeed? That I could build something? Or did you just not care? She started crying. Full ugly sobs. The kind that shake your whole body. She collapsed into the chair across from me and buried her face in her hands. I'm sorry, she choked out. I'm so sorry. I was jealous. I was angry. I hated that everyone always compared us. I hated that Grandma believed in you more than me. I hated that you were kind and I was just mean. So I tried to make you feel as small as I felt. And I'm so sorry. I let her cry. Let her break. Because she needed to. Because I'd spent years breaking in silence while she smiled and laughed and pretended to be perfect. When she finally looked up, her face was a mess. Mascara smeared. Nose running. She looked at me with desperate, pleading eyes. Please, she whispered. I know I don't deserve it. I know I don't. But I need help. I have nothing left. No job. No money. No home. I'm staying on a friend's couch and she's kicking me out next week. I have a fraud investigation hanging over my head. My life is over, Kara. It's over. I leaned back in my chair. Took a long, slow breath. And then I said the words I'd been holding on to for months. You didn't just steal money from Grandma, Talia. You stole who I was allowed to be. You stole my confidence. My voice. My right to exist in this family without being the punchline. You made me believe I was worthless. And you smiled while you did it. She flinched like I'd slapped her. You humiliated me, I continued. In front of everyone. At Christmas. At Thanksgiving. At every single family gathering. You made them laugh at me. You made me hate myself. And now you want me to save you. I don't deserve it, she whispered. I know I don't. But you're the only one I have left. And that's when I realized something. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about making her suffer the way I had. It was about boundaries. About protecting the life I'd built. About refusing to let someone who broke me once break me again. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city below, and I made my choice. I'll help you, I said quietly. But not the way you think. She looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. I'll connect you with a job recruiter I know. She works with people rebuilding their careers. I'll give you a reference, professional only. You'll have to start at the bottom. Work your way up. Prove that you can be trusted. And you'll pay Grandma back. Every penny. With interest. I'll set up a payment plan with her bank. Talia nodded frantically. Yes. Yes. I'll do it. I'll do anything. But, I said, turning to face her, we're not family anymore. Not the way we were. You're not invited to my life. Not to my home. Not to my successes. You'll get professional help because I'm not a monster. But you won't get me. Not my forgiveness. Not my trust. Not my love. You burned that bridge, Talia. And I'm not rebuilding it. Her face crumpled again. But she nodded. I understand. Good, I said. Now leave. She stood, walked to the door, paused, looked back at me one last time. For what it's worth, she said, voice barely audible. I really am proud of you. I didn't respond. Just watched her leave. Watched the door close behind her. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. No pain. Just peace. That evening, I stood at my office window and watched the sun set over Chicago. The city glowed gold and orange, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Not because of my family. Not because someone validated me. But because I chose it. I built it. I earned it. Grandma called later that night. Asked how it went. I told her everything. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, You did good, baby. You protected yourself. That's all I ever wanted for you. I asked her why she never told me about Talia sooner. Why she let it go on for so long. She sighed. Because some lessons can't be taught, Kara. They have to be survived. And you survived. You didn't just survive. You became someone stronger than any of us. That's the real gift. We talked for a while longer. About the past. About the future. About how humiliation, when you refuse to let it define you, becomes discipline. Becomes power. Becomes proof that you were never the problem. Before we hung up, Grandma said, Remember what I always told you, baby. The truth always comes home for dinner. And when it does, it brings the bill with it. I laughed. Really laughed. For the first time in months. Because she was right. The truth had come. And Talia had paid. Not because I made her. But because lies always collapse under their own weight. So here's what I want you to understand. Betrayal doesn't just sound like laughter. It sounds like silence when you need someone to speak up. It sounds like applause for the wrong person. It sounds like your own heartbeat when you're sitting alone at the end of the table wondering if anyone would notice if you disappeared. But survival? Survival sounds like footsteps at 5 a.m. when you're walking to a job you hate, so you can build something you love. It sounds like the click of a mouse when you land your first client. It sounds like the echo of your own voice in an office with your name on the door. Talia built her life on lies. On appearances. On the approval of people who didn't even really know her. And when it all fell apart, she had nothing left. Because lies are sand. They shift. They crumble. They disappear. But truth? Truth is concrete. It's heavy. It's hard to carry. But it holds. It lasts. And when you build on it, no one can knock it down. Some people spend their whole lives pretending. Performing. Trying to be someone they're not because they're terrified of being seen for who they are. And maybe that's sad. Maybe I should feel sorry for Talia. Maybe I should forgive her completely and let her back in. But I don't. And I won't. Because forgiveness doesn't mean erasing boundaries. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. And it sure as hell doesn't mean giving someone another chance to destroy you. I gave her a way forward. That's more than she deserved. And that's all she's getting. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever sat at a table where you were the joke? Have you ever worked yourself to exhaustion just to prove you're worth something? Have you ever rebuilt your entire life from nothing because the people who were supposed to love you made you feel like you were nothing? If you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know the rage, the pain, the exhaustion, the moment when you decide that enough is enough. And if you haven't, then count yourself lucky. Because that kind of betrayal changes you. It either breaks you or it builds you. There's no in between. I chose to be built. Brick by brick. Hour by hour. Failure by failure. Until I became someone even I didn't recognize. Someone stronger. Someone who doesn't need applause or approval or validation from people who never believed in me in the first place. So if you're sitting there right now feeling like you're not enough, like you'll never make it, like the world is stacked against you, listen to me. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not a failure. You're just at the beginning of a story that nobody else can write for you. And when you make it, when you build that life, when you sit behind that desk, when you look out that window and realize you did it all on your own, the people who doubted you will come back. They always do. They'll want a piece of what you built. They'll want forgiveness. They'll want you to pretend it never happened. And you'll have a choice. You can let them in, or you can protect what you built. There's no right answer. Only your answer. I chose protection. I chose peace. And I don't regret it. Don't miss the next story that could save you from the kind of betrayal most people never see coming. And if you still won't subscribe, tell me why. I'm listening. Because some people build their lives on lies. But truth always knocks. Right when they least expect it. And when it does, it brings the bill.